Now, this morning, we're chatting with the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards about the electrical safety. With me is Inspector 3, Mr. Larry Gopichan. Mr. Gopichan, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Pleasant good morning to you and to the viewing audience.
Now, the mandate of the TTPS and by extension, the mandate of the Implementation Division. Can you share some more about that with us?
All right. Well, I want to read it out because it's very specific.
Of course.
As for our thing, the mandate or the primary role of the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards is to develop, promote, and enforce standards in order to improve the quality and performance of the goods produced or used in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. It is also to ensure industrial efficiency and development and to promote public and industrial welfare, health, safety, and to protect the environment. So it's a wide, broad scope that we have to enforce.
Yeah.
We have to
If you were to sum that up in a nice little paragraph for me, a nice few sentences, how you would sum that up?
All right. So what our purpose is at the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards is to, firstly, as I said, develop standards.
Right.
There are certain things that we will develop standards for, and these standards fall under the categories of everything except food and drugs. We will develop a standard for those things, but we won't enforce those.
Right.
But we will work with other agencies to develop standards. And a critical question is, what is a standard?
Yeah.
Well, a standard is a technical document. It's a document. So it's a technical document of very specific guidelines and specific rules for either services, manufacturing, products, any kind of system, right? So you could have standards for operations, standards for services, standards for products, right? So these are the major categories. And what we at the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards do, and more specifically in the Implementation Division, we enforce compulsory standards. So there are standards that are categorized as voluntary and compulsory. Voluntary standards are standards that are governed by other agencies. The compulsory standards are under our direct enforcement.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of both, and then how does the Bureau ensure conformity to those two standards?
All right. So a voluntary standard will get the assistance of maybe industry. Industry will want to have a particular standard for some operations. One typical standard that is that you can work with is probably some of the food standards that they have, right? Some of the food standards, industry came in and they got our assistance. But the compulsory standards are the electrical standards, a suite of electrical standards, and you could understand why, because electrical safety, it's paramount with public health, your own personal safety. The risk of an electrical product causing severe harm is very high. So there are mandatory compulsory standards for electrical products.
And does the Bureau have, for example, rules or even like laws? So, for example, if it is you break this law, you don't conform to this law, do you have a certain consequence that you will face?
Right. So as we are governed under the Standards Act, Act 18 of 1997, this gives rise for us to have regulations. Our regulations and our standards have specific clauses that are the laws that we have to conform with as a country. Each standard by himself, it's a law actually. Once a standard is declared as a compulsory, it's even an enforceable law. All right, so that is the main criteria upon which we operate. If there are compulsory standards that we have to enforce, that is a law.
And in terms of electrical safety, I mean, we are in the rainy season. We've heard it all the time, right? Don't leave wires lying around and that sort of thing. Why is that so important?
Well, as I mentioned before, the risk, the most significant risk or hazard from electrical products is human endangerment, death. So once you put that in the forefront of your brain, that if I'm using electrical appliance, electrical cords, with frayed wires in a wet condition, that will cause death. And then loss of property, you can replace those things, you cannot replace a life. So put that first and foremost, that your own personal safety or the safety of your loved ones is of utmost importance when using and purchasing electrical products. Having said that, there's a system that is in place for us to go ahead and investigate whether electrical products are safe. And this is a compliance system, a conformity assessment system. It involves many arms within the Bureau. If there are new products coming in, we have an assessment of this product to ascertain whether it meets the requirements of the compulsory standards or not. And
No,
if-
this can be any item, for example, a washing machine, a toaster. Once it's something that you plug in, once it's something that
Correct.
is charged with electricity.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. So what we govern on the electrical side, because within the implementation division, there are many other products, but we're specifically talking about the electrical products of which I supervise.
Right.
And what we look at specifically is the electrical safety of appliances and its components. So we start at the service entrance to your home. We start with electric cables, circuit breakers, your power supplies, your appliances. And under the category of appliances, just as you mentioned, washing machines, dryers, toasters, televisions, refrigerators, and then we come to toys, electric toys especially, right? So it's a whole wide gambit of our responsibilities.
So is it that somebody, for example, if you're building a home,
Yes.
one of your field officers is going to come in the home to inspect, in fact, that everything is up to standard?
No, that is up to the government electrical inspectorate to inspect the wiring in a home.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
We inspect the products at points of entry for
So
imported
customs.
goods. At custom stations,
Right.
yes. Or even if it is not at a custom stations, we authorize a delivery to the premises of the importer, and we go ahead and inspect at the premises of the importer.
Do you also look for that yellow tab at the back of those electrical appliances as well? That shows you I think it's the voltage and other things that you
Very
need to
much
know
so.
about it.
Now, one of our main standards, or one of the main or core standards, is levels of inspection. We deal with labeling.
Right.
Right? Without a label on an item, more so an electrical item, you wouldn't, as a consumer, you wouldn't know what that item is, you wouldn't know how it operates, you do not know what the conditions are. So what we refer to is something called a ratings plate. And this information that is on the ratings plate has to represent things that we have in a compulsory standard. The compulsory standard that we have is TTS 76, Part 13. 2016 is the third revision. This is called the labeling of labeling requirements, labeling of electrical appliances. And there are many things that are covered that are mandatory to be shown on that appliance, right?
For example?
Firstly, you have to have a proper brand name. You just can't have an item out there that is no brand name, especially the electrical appliance.
Yeah.
You must have who manufactures it, a manufacturer, or who distributes it. Some form of redress, somewhere that if this thing goes bad, who could I turn to, right? You also will have the electrical characteristics, right? Its operating voltage, right? Whether it is operating for the conditions within Trinidad and Tobago. Normally, our appliances operate on a 110, 120. That's
Right,
low
yes.
voltage appliances. In other parts of the world, they manufacture appliances to operate at 220, 240. So you'll see a blender sometimes manufactured for 220, 240, but people want to use that in our environment. Clearly, there'll be some malfunctioning there, right? And especially for motorized appliances, in Trinidad, our distribution supply is on a 60 hertz cycle. You'll get appliances rated at 50 hertz, which means if you have a motor, that will not work the way it's supposed to work. I mean, even cause much harm. It might even burn.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that is why it is important to follow the guidelines, rules as set out in the compulsory standard TTS 76 Part 13. Right?
Now, with the labeling, because of course we know there's so many counterfeit products on
Right.
the market. So is it that if I purchase an item without that labeling, will I say it's counterfeit, or how do I know something is counterfeit as opposed to real?
Very good. Very good question. The responsibility to know if it is counterfeit or not lies solely with us, but we want to educate the public as much as we can. Now, a counterfeit item is indicated by the presence or possible absence of a product certification mark. Especially with electrical products, a product certification mark gives an attestation or some form of assurance that this item, this particular good, was manufactured according to set product standards. It was given a performance appraisal, performance test by an accredited body, and that it passed. And once it has passed and gone through a conformity assessment program, a product certification program, they would have allowed it to put onto that item a product certification mark.
What does that mark look like?
So some of the typical ones that you may have grown up with, the most common one might be UL, right? You see that nice U and a little L in a circle.
Right, yes.
Right. So that might be the most common one that you all will know. But there are a plethora of marks around the world right now because of the markets and how the world has developed marketing products coming from different regions. So right now we also have from the Canadian side will be CSA. Another one from the American side is ETL, but that is globally now under Intertech, right? You will also have in our region, because products come from certain parts in Latin American region, we have the NOM, and it could be either the NOM sub-NYCE, which is a nomenclature for a particular standard body,
Right, yeah.
right? Or the ANCE, depending on which category of good the product is manufactured for. And those are some of the common ones. You will see TUV, you will see SUD, right? These are some of the major things. I'm not sure if you all were able to show.
I know we had it, but I'm not sure that they'll be able to get it. But in the meantime, though, because I know I was out of time, the compulsory standards.
Right.
How do we know the list of electrical products? Are we just supposed to say, okay, all electrical products are covered under the compulsory standards, or are there certain products that are listed under those particular standards?
All right. So the list of compulsories, once something is an appliance, categorized as an appliance, it has to be in a compulsory standard. Electric cables under compulsory standard, right? All electric cables that are coming in for your use within your homes. Your power supplies are under compulsory standard. Your power strips, those extension cords, right? And Christmas lights. This the season. That is why we are out here trying to get the word across.
Yes.
And we may have a follow-up on some further things, how to identify the actual products. I work with a set of products, and I could do a demonstration. It's more longer time.
No, because I was also wondering, as well as a good point that you brought up, the power strip.
Yes.
Everybody has a power strip in their home, right?
Yes.
But then the power strip has TV, it has radio, it has internet charger, computer charger, it has phone charger. That seems to be a safety hazard.
Yes.
So then how do we know what is the right number of plugs, I guess, you can plug into a power strip?
Right. So in every power strip will tell you what its rated wattage is. So once your appliance gives a certain wattage, or your device you're using gives a certain wattage, you add it up. And you're not supposed to exceed what is rated on that. Right? So you add up all the wattages of everything that are plugged in, not supposed to exceed that at all.
Interesting. I learned something today because I never knew that. I was actually talking about me. I'm one of those guilty people.
Yes.
But you mentioned Christmas as well, right? How can we ensure safety and still be festive? Because everybody wants the Christmas lights. We want to hang things outside, inside. So then what kind of things can we look for when we're purchasing the lights, and where's the best place to plug them in the household?
All right. So similarly, the certified lights, those that have carried either the UL or the CSA or the NOM or the ETL logos on authentic ones on the cord itself, right? And they will always indicate, do not plug, or the wattage.
Yes.
They will. So you do your calculation. If it is that I'm plugging in 3 and just using say 10 watts, well then I know I cannot exceed more than 3 strings or 4 strings, depending on the wattage that they are telling me to use. Same principle applies.
Right.
Yeah.
And if somebody needs to make a complaint, for example, you would have purchased something in a hurry, you realize it's counterfeit, where we can go to make a complaint?
Right. The first avenue, once you have purchased something, your first avenue is always the Consumer Affairs Division, which is also under our parent ministry, the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Right? So you can make your complaints to the Consumer Affairs Division. They will investigate, and if they need our assistance for further analysis, they will engage us. But if you suspect something that is not looking right, and again, see something, say something. We're dealing with laws here. People might say it's the soft law, not the sexy law, right? But it's still a law. If we want to do that, you contact the Implementation Division at implementation@ttbs.org.tt, or generally at ttbs@ttbs.org.tt.
Right, because that's going to be my final question. For more information about this, as we're going into the Christmas season, where can we go to get that document that's going to show us what it is this right safety measure to plug in stuff in our homes?
All right. So we'll be putting across on the social media, right? We'll be putting across some things within this coming weeks, and you all can be connected to us through our various handles, right? TTBS and GoTTBS is our website. We also have the Facebook, and you can connect with us there, and we'll have all the information. Or you just give us the email, send us email, ttbs@ttbs.org.tt. We'd be more than willing to assist in whichever way in getting the information across.
Nice. Mr. Gopichan, thank you so much for coming in. I do
Thank you
agree
for
that we
having
need
us.
to have you back again.
We
You're going to
will.
bring some
Yes.
stuff, and we
Yes,
can test
we
out
will.
some stuff so we know exactly how we can be safe going into the Christmas season. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And that was Larry Gopichan, Inspector 3 at the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards, just teaching us some more about electrical safety. Stay with us, because up next we have San Fernando. They're about to launch their City Week, and you would not want to miss the amazing information that they have, man. Now, City Month in fact, so stay with us.
Regulation, because the road these days like a burial ground. Every day somebody gets